when we bought this house in August 2006, um, we were completely naive to how complicated it was going to get. It's a long house, so I don't think it's called a long house, but it looks like a Devon long house, I suppose you'd say. Um, so there are one, two, three, four, five. There's four rooms, and then there's a utility room, and then there's a garage. And on the end of the garage, attached to the garage, is our neighbour, who we call Scroat. And when we first came here, we appeared to get on okay with him. He appeared to get on okay with us. It had been a difficult process because there had been issues over rights of way, issues over pieces of land that when we actually signed the Acte de Vente, there was a clause put into the Acte de Vente that there was some money put aside to deal with any issues that came up with regarding the outstanding issues, to help pay for that if they came up. And if they didn't come up in 2008, we would get the money that had been put aside. So we sort of thought to ourselves, well, and said, oh, that's okay, don't worry, we'll deal with that. We're used to dealing with difficult people. We were both psychotherapists in the UK, so we're used to dealing with difficult people. We'll be fine. So yeah, that's what we thought. For the first 18 months, it appeared that everything was okay. I mean, he's not somebody I would have chosen to have to even kiss on each cheek. That was a bit, I didn't like that. But he was there. He was our neighbour. But after we had problems before that, he'd got dogs that he kept in the front yard that just barked and barked and barked at 3 o'clock in the morning, and just woke me every time. It was horrible. We had some really, really bad nights. What? What do you want? You're not going to come up, are you? I know you won't. So yeah, first 18 months it appeared okay, and you tend to overlook stuff because you think, well, I'm English, it's a cultural difference. It must be us. But he's not a nice man. And then we had an area, the driveway into into the garden was a joint driveway. It was a right of way, so we actually own all of it, and he owns a third of it. But often he would come sweeping up in his car, sweeping over the garden, loud music playing. I mean, he's an old man. He's older than I am, so that old. I think he's deaf, so he'd got the loud radio on, and so it wasn't nice. You weren't ever in your own garden. It was you can come up. There you go. So I think it came to a head. One of the first time it came to a head was when the dog from the local chateau broke in and killed all our chickens, and yeah, so I decided that I wanted to keep the gate closed on the end of the right of way. That was something that I wanted to do. So I closed the gate on the end of the right of way, and he would deliberately come out of he'd got another chemin the other side of the house, and he'd come out in his car, drive out in his car, drive past, stop, open the gate, and then drive home again. And that happened quite a bit. And then we had family coming, and my grandson Charlie was only 3, I think, or something. And again, I wanted to close the gate because it's not a very busy road, but it's just, you want to keep your grandkids safe. Tried closing the gate again, and no, he kept opening it. And it's, I can't explain it, but it it's not that it hurts, but there's quite a sort of a visceral reaction to that, you know, because you feel like I can't keep my kids safe, I can't keep my grandkids safe, and you feel sort of impotent, and we were for a while. So we came up to the deadline of 2008, November 2008, when the issues, the boundary issues, if they weren't addressed, we would get this sum of money, and all of a sudden we get. I'm not sure if he had a conversation with Mark. I think he had a conversation with Mark just on the hoof. Mark was bringing wood in, and said, "I've got the geometra coming tomorrow. The geometra is the surveyor. I've got the geometra coming tomorrow because we need to sort out these boundary issues because, you know, my kids need to inherit all of what's mine. I don't want to do them out of their inheritance." But it wasn't like he came round and said, "Can we negotiate a good time for the geometra to come?" It was, "I've done it. This is what's happening." So Mark came in and said, "Oh, you know, that's what's happening." And I said, "Well, we're going out." I thought, "Well, fuck off." Oh, excuse me. But no, you know, you don't do that. You don't arrange something and expect people to jump. You negotiate. So we went off to Poitiers for the day, I think, and so he was absolutely fuming. After that, we got a really rude letter from him. "I paid for the geometry, blah blah blah." So it started to get a bit iffy. um, so the deadline for the money, oh, that was it. So we had to make several trips to the notaire to discuss this boundary issue, and scrape with either not turn up or he would turn up. And on the last occasion, he turned up, and the notaire went through the sale file, you know, the pre-sale file when we bought it, and pointed out to Scrope, "You didn't come for this, you didn't come for that, we invited you to this, you know, you did know about this, blah blah." So sort of put him on the spot, really. Um, and I just turned around and said, "We don't want that piece of land. I mean, it's not a big piece of land, and we've got an acre of ground, and we're English, and the English, like, this is big for me anyway, for us." We said, "We don't want it," and he was fuming. He got up and stormed out because what he wanted was the money, which we wanted as well. You know, much I'd rather have the money than the piece of land that doesn't really affect us at all. So that's how that ended. We got the money, he got nothing. But then, of course, he upped his game and just was just even more um, of a pain. Um, he just he will do things. He would do things that other people might not notice, that he's throwing down gauntlets or that he's poking. It's not obvious to somebody coming in that he's poking, but obviously to us who are sensitized to it and who live with it all day long and every day, know that he is poking. So that went on for a while, and we we had a large amount of money from mother-in-law, unbeknownst to us, or we weren't expecting it, and all of a sudden we had this large amount of money, and part of that, most of that was going to go on the roof. The roof really needed doing. We were so lucky to get this money, but we put some of it by and decided we were going to build a wall and divide up the gardens. And there were there's certain rules that you need to attend to. It must either be, the wall must either be on the boundary of that parcel of land, or 3 meters from it, or a meter from it, or something like that. So we went and saw a geomet who said, "I can't." What did he say? He said, "I can advise you. I can advise you what you can do and what you can have, but you can't. I can't." I can't remember what it was he couldn't do, but he advised us. We also applied for planning permission at our local town hall, village hall. We didn't need to. We didn't need permis de construire for a wall, but it was like probably best to do that. They suggested it was best to do that under the circumstances, because after we'd been here a couple of years, we discovered that Nobody would have bought this house. No French people, no local people would have bought this house because of Scrope. Nobody in the village would have anything to do with him. And even now, you know, I'm going for a blood test this morning, and one of the nurses, a male nurse, sort of said to me, "Oh, yeah, you live there. You live next door to la la la. Oh, yeah, we used to work with him. Oh my God, you know." And they all remember him. He's we think we're pretty sure that he's got personality disorder. And it's just our luck, really. 2 psychotherapists and 1 personality disorder. The only personality disorder in the village, a bit like in oh, what is it? What show is it where you got the only gay in the village? I can't remember what show that was now. Anyway, a bit like that. So we applied to the town hall, and then we got started because we knew we didn't need necessarily the permission, but we just got started. Got 2 guys here digging out a new driveway, diggers and earth moving, and I'm not sure that he started. You see him drive past and staring in. It's just gross. He just drives past and stares in even now, with a fag hanging out of his mouth. It's really irritating. He looks like Catweasel, the bloke in Catweasel. He looks like him. He looks really spooky. So he'd drive past and sort of look at what was going on. Couldn't understand what was going on until the guys started. I keep doing this because I'm getting cat hairs everywhere because I've got a cat who I'm stroking. The guys started digging the footings for the wall. He went absolutely apeshit, jumping around under the digger, taking photos, absolutely mad, and sent in a bailiff. And the bailiff turned up, and we, you know, we didn't really understand that we didn't need to talk to the bailiff. Of course, us being polite, you know, oh, come in, have a cup of tea, la la la. But the bailiff was really nasty, you know. Why are you speaking English? Of course, by then you're being rocked by somebody, and actually I should have said to him, well, because we're English and this is our house. I didn't. So the bailiff gave us a hard time, but we carried on, and then he insisted that the work stopped, and he put up a red and white tape, and what if anybody falls in this over the weekend? Then he fell down the hole. Just, I can't remember the timeline now, because at one point, I think, oh, that was it, Scrope came along. They were digging the footings. Scrope came along, jumping up and down, really angry, taking photos, and it was lunchtime. It was a Wednesday lunchtime, and one of the guys went across to him, one of our guys in the building, got hold of him by the scruff of his t-shirt, I think, and went, "You take any more photos and you'll eat that camera for dinner." Scrope called the gendarmes, and so very quickly there were gendarmes everywhere, and they weren't our local gendarmes, who over the years, with all the things that Scrope had done, meant we knew the local gendarmes because we'd gone in and made a complaint, or he'd been in and made a complaint, and it wasn't our local gendarmes. So there was a big contretemps in the garden, and eventually our locals turned up and said, "Oh, you know, okay, come along to the gendarmerie after lunch, and we'll sort this out." I make it all sound so, you know, okay, don't worry, it's easy, but it was really, really horrible, because even though you think you've done everything that you should do, you're not sure. You think, oh, maybe we missed something, maybe we're wrong, you know. Meanwhile, we've got footings and a wall about to be built. So we went off to the gendarmes at 2:00, and it was a female gendarme. She's not there now, Madame Bernardi. And I think she was really pleased with the wall building, because she said to us in the end, you know, we talked about it a bit, and she said, "Go home and build your wall quickly," because they're fed up with it. He's always complaining. They got dossiers, you know, a foot thick, with photos and complaints and people that have upset him, and you know, he's had arguments with our neighbours, our Parisian neighbours, and yes, not you. I'm not talking to you. Do you want to be talked to? So, and they said to us, the gendarmes, she said, and call in at the town hall. They've got your permission there. Called in there. That was already in an envelope that was about to go in the post. Called in there, picked that up, came home, and we carried on. And when the guys came back on Monday, because I think this was a Friday, so Ian and Arthur had gone, and then they came back and carried on Monday, digging footings, building, putting up breeze block, beginning the wall, and Scrape drove past and did a double take. He couldn't believe it, I think, because he thought that he'd sorted things by bringing in the bailiff, and so they built the wall, and oh, it was the best. It's the best thing that we've invested in here. Um, it made such a difference. We had another cat then, Grebo, who's now dead, who'd never been able to get very far beyond the front door because the dogs in the yard with an open, see-through gate would just bark at him. So he never got out into the front garden. There's plenty of room for him out the back, but it was like he couldn't go out there. And even whilst the guys were still building, once the wall had started to go up, so I saw Grebo laying down on the new driveway, rolling around and really enjoying his new freedom, which was lovely. Very quickly got used to the idea that he could go out. So we built the wall. Scrope was furious, and for a long time afterwards, he carried on being an arsehole. We've got a very long hedge all the way around. It's 60 metres, and every time he went round the bend, he'd toot 3 times, and every time he came back, he'd toot 3 times because the hedge needed trimming, and he's in and out 5 or 6 times a day. He's got fields down the bottom with sheep and with donkeys, so he's in and out to the animals, and a horn going every time, it just makes you jump. It makes you jump. So you're constantly being impacted on by someone else, and it's just horrible. So he carried on doing that. Lots of other things that I can't remember now because lots of letters were exchanged. He threatened me because my sheep weren't registered. They've now got tags in their ears, but at the time they weren't registered. And he is just the nastiest man I've ever met. And I've worked with people with personality disorders. I've worked with some people, and he is at the top of the pile. And he's my neighbour. Anyway, it's been really peaceful for the last 6 or 7 years. I think finally we just wrote to his, because we got a letter from a lawyer and Abakar, and we just wrote back and said, look, we know what's going on. We know that he's doing this. We don't comment because it's pointless. We know that he's wanting us to respond, and we won't do, and we're no longer willing for him to write to us via you. If he's got a problem, he needs to let us know. And it stopped. So my advice, if you're going to buy a house in France, is never, ever buy a house where someone has a right of way over your land, where you're sharing a piece of land with someone else. It may look like, oh, that's okay, and they seem quite nice. It might look like that, but we're not the only ones who've been through something similar to this. I've read stories online of people, with difficult right of way, and then rights of way where neighbours have parked stuff deliberately across so you can't get out. He never did that, but he blew exhaust fumes over me really loud, revved up his car, exhaust fumes over me when I'm trying to talk to my dying auntie on the phone outside, and exhaust fumes into the garage when Mark was working in the garage with the doors open. A massive shitbag, and I know every country has its shitbags, and they do have them here. So do not buy a house with a right of way. Do not think that you can resolve issues of land ownership after the event. You really can't. And we're left with a house that if we wanted to sell it, with all that's gone on before, we're now left with what's known as a vice caché, which is a hidden vice. And normally a vice caché is something tangible, you know, I don't know, like a wall or a hole in the ground or a hidden rock somewhere. But our vice caché is the shitbag next door. And trying to sell this house would be really difficult, I think, you know, because you have to say, yeah, we've had a problem with him. So there you go. This is Jazz, who has only got one front leg, haven't you? What are you looking at? Born with only one front leg, but absolutely amazing. Up a tree, up trees, no problem. And when you see her dashing around the garden hunting, because she's a prolific hunter, you wouldn't know that she's only got 3 legs. The only time you notice it is when she's slow or tired, and then she lopes a bit. But she uses this shoulder here. You know when cats do this thing, she does that with both legs, don't you? Huh? And if, I mean, she doesn't know, if she was using a litter tray, both legs go. Same out in the garden when she's having a pee or a poo, both legs go. It's really funny. But you don't know, do you? Huh? You don't know that you're disabled. I don't know, I think she's the best cat we've ever had, really. Aren't you? I'm going to put her down now. Okay, there you go. Don't do it. Do it carefully. A plus.